Hello, and
Hello.
Welcome to Oscilloscope Deep Dive. As you can tell from the words down there, I'm Ed, Ben is over there as co-host, over there even, and we have John Williams below us. Welcome, John. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Ed. It's been a lovely day down here. I've been out in the park most of the day. Fantastic.
Oh, great. Doing nice things, or?
Basically molesting pigeons, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Chasing squirrels.
You've got to be quick, you know. You've got to run.
They are so fast, those little buggers.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah. You've got to be quick, you know, and accurate.
No, it's been great. I mean, the park has been a lifeline this last 18 months, so absolute godsend.
Absolutely. How are you, Ben, as well? You know,
very good.
Very lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you, Ed. Yeah, I'm fantastic. Yep, everything is under strict lockdown in my world, so we only have parks and squirrels. And I'll be chasing squirrels later, I'm sure.
Are you allowed to talk to squirrels in Canada? I'm not sure. You know?
Oh goodness, Canada has an abundance of squirrels.
Yeah, but are you allowed to talk to them? This is the important thing.
No, of course not.
Have you got those big black ones out there?
We do. With most of they're bigger than cats.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
They talk. Welcome to Squirrel Chat.
I'm an aficionado when it comes to squirrels, really.
How are you, Ed?
I mean,
well?
Today I'm good, thank you. I'm still wondering whether squirrels have to wear face masks and if they put them around the ears, you know.
They've all been vaccinated.
Yeah, you know, you've got to queue up and get your injection, haven't you? You know. And, I'm good. Thank you very much.
They've all got Darth Vader masks in my park.
Have they?
It's very avant-garde, yes.
I should park there. Sounds good.
Yes, you do not know the power of the squirrel side here.
My favorite.
I was trying for a second. It obviously wasn't going to work.
Are we any squirrels in our program today, Ed? Do we have
I don't know, but I think by implication we kind of might have sort of implied squirrels, given that we have a triptych of work, John's Gaia Triptych coming up, which kind of sort of almost takes us from the beginning of mathematics to life and everything in the universe and 42 and so long, thanks to all the fish.
I didn't manage to get 42 in. That was my only regret.
Oh no, okay, fair enough. And that might well be my own interpretation of this work, but
that's pretty spot on, actually.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. For those of you that might watch it in a minute, we've got this. Basically, there are three sections to John's Gaia Triptych, which kind of is sort of implicit in the title. First of which is Sign of the Times, so sign SINE as in the wave, which for those of you who are massive Prince fans might be a slight disappointment. We then have a second movement or second piece, which is Hodia's Invitation, which for those of you who are local to this place will probably pick up on the fact that that's a sort of Welsh English title, bridging between the two. And the final section is Ouroboros, which being the snake that's doing cyclical things and wonderfulness. Without wishing to dive into that too much, is there anything you want to say about it, John, before people get the chance to watch it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a little bit of context.
Yeah, please do.
The whole thing started really a few weeks after the setup of lockdown, and we were about 2 or 3 weeks in, and I remember looking out of my window, and normally you can't see across London. London is smog, noise, smoke, and the occasional scream. And you know, and I looked out of my window and I could see the distant parts of London, and it was crystal clear and I could hear birdsong, and I could smell grass and leaves. And I thought, my God, if you just subtract or modify fairly moderately, really, human activity for a very short amount of time, it's just amazing what can be achieved and how fast the natural world, which we all rely on, can rebound. And so that was actually the beginning of this piece. And it's called a triptych because it's actually 3 devotional panels. They're all reflecting exactly the same thing, but taken at different levels of abstraction. So Sign of the Times focuses on the elements leading up to and the Big Bang, microseconds afterwards. And you see the primeval atoms becoming and starting to create immediately the first field. That then moves into Gwahoddiad, which is fields. Basically, it's all about fields and togetherness. And then you move into Ouroboros, which is the Anthropocene. It deals with the beginning of life on our planet. And I initially had 5 sections for that, the 5 major epochs and the 5 breakdowns of life, the 5 heat deaths. Only one of the major extinctions was produced by a meteor. The rest are all heat-related deaths, and the amount of death is proportional to the rapidity of heating. The rapidity of heating now is far greater than anything we've ever experienced before, so we're heading for the greatest die-off. And so I just wanted to encapsulate all of that as devotional panels. The first and the last panels are monochrome. The middle panel, Gwahoddiad, is in color. And so those are intended to give you that appearance of, 3 screens. They were originally all supposed to play for identical times, but in fact, the last one, Ouroboros, got away from me a little bit and lasts for 2 minutes more. But I couldn't shorten it anymore because the pacing couldn't be shortened. So yeah, that's the context of the whole triptych.
Okay.
Excellent.
Ben, anything you want to ask or add before we jump in and have a watch?
No, I love these pieces, especially the sound. So I can't wait to share them with everyone. This is a great piece. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've for those of us who been involved and following the oscilloscope stuff, I mean, I think we've sort of seen them in microcosm as individual pieces, which has been fascinating. But it's actually been a really big privilege to sort of take the time to see them back to back.
Thanks, guys.
And yeah, it's really quite intriguing, the difference that makes. So hopefully Charles has got them there in the background and able to play them sort of now. And yeah, so John Williams' Gaia Triptych.
yaworong ro yeramandan.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, John. That's a set of pieces, or especially an ending that kind of stays with you for a few seconds, that you kind of, just slowly chill down from.
It's very, very dense work, isn't it? Like, especially like you say at the end, you definitely feel the weight of everything as it finishes.
I mean, the last one was actually intended to be quite violent. You're supposed to leave it feeling brutalized almost, because that's what we're doing. So,
Okay.
Interesting.
Would you care to unpack what is your idea of the narrative of those pieces, or the three pieces, or the one continuous piece? I'm not sure.
I mean, the whole continuous...
I mean, I've sort of had a bit in the intro with conjecture that you said was close, but I'm not sure. I mean,
I mean, the whole thing basically deals with connectedness, because the whole thing is called the Gaia Triptych, and it's basically one, I suppose, of my long-term beliefs is the Gaia theory, whereby everything depends on everything else.
Okay,
is this in a dynamic equilibrium?
Is this actually formally going back to Lovelock and all those people,
yes.
or is it okay?
Yeah. So it's the Gaia hypothesis, whereby everything exists in interconnection, which you cannot distort or destroy. Otherwise, if you destroy one, you destroy both.
Okay.
And so we start off, and the interconnection is the very beginning of the Gaia hypothesis, whereby a wave equals a particle. The two are indivisible. You cannot separate the wave from the particle nature, the building blocks of our universe. And so that for me was as elemental as I could get. That's the extent of my knowledge anyway. I'm sure there are muons and leptons and God knows what else. But that was as good as I could go. And I wanted to illustrate that in a mathematical, physical kind of way. So the basis for that was monochrome video, simple shapes, and only additive synthesis. And it begins with two sine waves only, very slightly out of phase. And so you get binaural beating right at the beginning until the circle is right in front of you, and only then do you get where the interaction between the particle and its own field start to come in. And then the particle is literally becoming familiar with this world of, good God, is this induction? What is this? I interact with this field. I am part of this field. I cannot do anything without this field involving me and changing me in some way. And so you've got that incredible duality whereby the thing that wishes to change another thing is itself changed in that act. And that's the essential nature of, I think, of reality. But it comes back to the entirety of this piece, really.
Okay. I mean, because looking at that first section, the sign of the times, which sine wave for those of us who are in the gang, and will get the whole sine wave uppy downy wibbliness of the pun. I was quite intrigued how that out of tuneness thing worked. You know, it felt very logical and very reasoned, but also not quite right. Was there was clearly some sort of methodology behind it? I mean, what was going on there? Because you said there were two waves. I mean, but then listening further through that first section, there were obviously, or there were apparently more than two notes. So
that's right. I mean,
what were you achieving there? Was this just stacking this additive process, or was this developing it in some way?
In the de Broglie theory of the atom, you've got lots of levels, and they're probabilistic. And so each level, note, pitch, is allowed a probability. And so that harmony is not guaranteed.
Oh, are you talking sort of atomic shell kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you
each
of those is an electron.
In hands up to my ignorance, I'd not put names of that theory. Okay, brilliant.
My basic background is a scientist, so I worship science, but I also worship the arts because, of course, of that duality. You can't.
I'm from the other side as an artist who is a frustrated astrophysicist, you know.
I think we're all frustrated astrophysicists.
Yeah, absolutely, you know. No, sorry, go on.
We don't have telescopes as big as Charles, but yeah, so the whole idea is that that's representing levels, electron levels, and so you start off, and they're slightly out of phase, only two of them, and then additive synthesis is brought in. I think I use up to 9 operators in live at one point in time, each of them producing 4 sine waves, of course. And it's only additive synthesis. There is no, at that point, there is no FM allowed because we're in the very early universe. I'm restricting myself to not having any FM. And so you start off...
frequency modulation.
No frequency modulation. So no complex interaction. We're only allowed quite simple interaction, which is living together, but they needn't be a harmonic series. And so the first sounds that you hear are enharmonic, very metallic. And very sterile, digital. And then right at the end, what you have is a harmonious series, which is a chord. I can't remember which chord it was. But right at the end, you get to a chord where it comes to a stop.
Yeah.
So that was the basis of the entire piece, which I think is the first 2.5 picoseconds or something of the Big Bang. I don't know.
Oh wow! So is that actually modelling or attempting to model that?
That's my understanding of it, which is probably rubbish, but it made for a compelling story. So
no, that's
it makes for an interesting video piece. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that makes for that video piece being even more interesting in retrospect as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was throughout the whole thing. I mean, this whole idea of working from video, which I'd never done before, started from an oscilloscope episode, where one of the just brilliant contributions had a lovely video, and I remember asking in the chat, did you, which came first, the video or the sound? He said the sound, obviously, and I thought, well, hang on a second, I'd like to reverse that because I'm by nature contrary. So I thought, well, I'll try. And lo and behold, I found that it just appeals to me in that, as I say, I've got reverse synesthesia. If I see a picture, I will hear a sound. And then it's a question of working out how I get there. And so for all of these, the video came first.
I've got to be honest, there are two things that bounce to mind right then. The first of which is, can you remember who or what that video was?
I can't. It was.
And
I think
the
it was one of
second
our.
is,
It was one of our superb contributors, who I think is a long-term
So
brilliant
many.
artist.
that's a bit of a list.
Yes, I know. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. I
And
know,
the
but-
second thing on the comments of this is, oh my goodness, I've talked for an awful lot. Ben, do you want to jump in? Because okay, my word,
Oh
I
my
fault
God.
this terribly.
I don't know how much I could have contributed to that conversation.
No.
That was I learned a lot, and I think I can bring that to the table. In fact, I
Absolutely.
could get the sense of what you were communicating in that piece without knowing all of the stuff you just shared. Now, of course, all that context makes it far more rewarding, far richer of a piece. But I think as what I came across, I felt the coldness. I felt the sort of metallic coldness at the beginning. And even though I wasn't sure how it was being made, and I understood the simplicity and the meaning behind your simple, and I mean simple in the most positive way, imagery that you've chosen. So you kind of, you get that feeling of what's going on without even, and I even felt like there was that sort of hint towards something more natural at the end. So I guess really do you feel that it's a successful standalone piece, or does it need to be with the rest all three together?
I would prefer that people saw all three together, because that makes it blindingly obvious what I'm talking about. But each and every piece can be seen by itself, because they all deal with exactly the same thing.
So that's what I would say, is that I think, and we'll talk about all the three pieces collectively, I'm sure, but I think that, without the understanding, the piece alone does communicate enough that I got enough of your message without the science or knowledge of it. And to me, it is a standalone piece, as well as part of the triptych, because it's repeating the same other elements in the other pieces. You can isolate it and look at it and get your meaning from it. So I guess the next question is, and we're probably going to flow into this what is your meaning with the other pieces? Like, how does it fit with the other two pieces to you?
Yeah, well, the basically abstractions in time. So we go from 2.5 picoseconds after the Big Bang, and in Gweholiad we move to basically interactions of fields and energy. And you can liken it to what we see in astrophysics. These are like clouds of dust and energy, the stars, interacting with each other, producing the music of the cosmos, if you like. And this is my interpretation of the background noise of the universe as it was starting to form. And you've got this incredible number of fields talking to each other. And so when you get fields interacting, you're going to get some elements of harmony, but also some elements of chaos, and some elements that repeat, like stars spinning around each other, and then some that don't. And I wanted to try and encompass that kind of totality and yet make a piece out of it, because otherwise it threatened to become a homogeneous kind of morass, which it probably is, unless you see it over several millennia, and so that's what I was trying to do with that piece. I mean, it sounds like a lot of thought, but all these pieces, actually, the way I work is that I'll have an idea and nothing will happen for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'll be doing all the kind of underlying work for that. And that was very evident in the last piece, but I'll be collecting ideas and sound. How do I get that sound, and I'll be playing with sounds, like chucking away 99% of them, quite frankly. I mean, if you look at the history of that piece in live, it was there was detritus strewn all over the hard drive before I finally got the palette I wanted, and then I had to kind of get the arrangement I wanted. And the arrangement is done to video.
That little comment intrigues me, and it's something that I always struggle with. Whereby you obviously had a few points. I mean, if you take the first element of the triptych, which is very clearly, well, I mean, the clue is in the title that it's sine wave based, and it builds from kind of first principles, which actually is really quite impressive. And then all of a sudden, at some point, you break into something that is sort of understandably human utterance. And somehow I've not listened to it or all the pieces that many times. Okay, maybe 8, 9, 10, dozen, whatever. But somehow you managed to bridge this gap between this really what feels primal but also strangely synthetic and this sort of really human sound. I mean, how did you get between the two?
The
Because
first one,
that's hard.
yeah,
That's a difficult trick to pull, in my experience. I actually want to know.
Well, I'll give you what steers I can, but I can't guarantee you're going to help it. But what I did was I have limitations. I impose limitations for every piece.
Yeah.
And the first piece, I was only allowed to use sine waves. That was it.
Yeah.
Because it fitted with the subject matter, and I thought if you can't make it with sine waves, you simply can't make it. So it had to be sine waves. And I had to use the minimum
Fourier transform and whatnot. And
yeah, I had to use the minimum number of operators I could get away with. It turned out to be 9 at the end. So 36 sine waves in totality. At the end, there are 36 sine waves.
Okay.
And then in the second piece in Bohodiad, that's all basically sample based, or my synthesis turned into a sample and then mangled to pieces to get me the sound I wanted, often in max, bits of max, just the sound just torn to shreds, reassembled, filtered, slowed down, chopped up. Basically sound was put through the ringer, because remember, you're dealing with such amazing energies there that I thought I could get away with doing anything to sound, because you're dealing with the energy that makes stars. So I thought, I've got to be able to do anything here. And so I used every sample mangling technique I know. So it came out sounding quite synthetic until he got to the end, where it became more recognizably me singing.
It's you.
It's me. I'd hoped to mangle it up enough that nobody'd recognize it. So.
I was expecting a whole choir there. No, that's very impressive.
It was
okay. Yeah, I hadn't actually clocked that it was you. So
yeah. No,
yeah,
I didn't.
In fairness, job done.
I'm singing the hymn Bohodiad.
Nice.
And you'll actually hear it. If you listen carefully, you can hear it throughout the piece.
Yes.
There are actually tiny fragments of it, but it's heavily mangled. And it gets less and less mangled in that particular section, so that you hear it again. You've got this transition. It's kind of encompassing eons of physical time. So you've got this transition in the first one from 0 to 2.5 picoseconds. This one is from, God knows, 3 seconds to millennia before our Earth is formed. And so you've got the stars forming, the incredible energy and power and radio frequency, noise. That's what I wanted. That's what I was feeling anyway, this incredible violence and yet strange beauty. And so that allowed me to use every synthetic technique I had in terms of sample mangling. And then the last piece is largely found sounds, so field recordings. So you're moving in abstraction from the level of an atom to the level of astrophotography, and then coning in on really the Anthropocene, which is us and Earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think about these things way too much, but they take weeks.
And you know what? Like they're very. I like the pieces a lot because you feel that density and that weight behind it. Like there is that context there, but at the same time, like I love the pretty colors. Especially the second piece. So like there's like you can purely enjoy it as a piece without. But again, once you know that context, you know what you're saying. It gives it a lot more gravitas, doesn't it? I find it very, very interesting that it got so complicated in the third piece with a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
these are two dense pieces that when you look and listen to them, they're sure, you can feel the density of it, but yet you can enjoy them on a sort of surface level and just enjoy them. And then you get to that third piece, and like the narration and the meaning and the will behind what you're doing is just all leveled up to me. So, certainly I understand why you formed them as a triptych now, right? With how you're directing them there. But I sort of insist on thinking that third piece is something else as well, because it gets like, and I think you even said it got a little unwieldy at one point.
I mean, to be honest, I always pour all of myself into my work. I don't do much else while I'm working, and they get everything I can give at that point in time within those limitations. So working with sine waves, I spent ages working with sine waves to get just the sound I want when I wanted it, panned exactly the same way that I wanted it. And then in the second piece, producing the sounds, I'm quite quick now at getting the sound I want. And so I was able to mangle them fairly quickly, but then arranging them and the automation for that piece is insane. And then the third piece I had to do, I mean, Ed will be familiar with this. He was saying, John, have you got any pieces? And I was saying, I need to do more procedural coding, Ed. And that went on for months. So literally, I was learning first jitter, and then I found that my MacBook couldn't produce the frame rate or the resolution I needed. So I had to abandon all of that work. And that was a lot of work. And learn to code in P3 processing using Java. And I know a little bit of C, and so Java wasn't that tough. But I had to literally learn enough to write some of my own clips.
Anywho,
I'll carry on. It was about I'm sort of moving right along to the third piece, that it was the hardest I've ever worked on a piece. I've never ever worked harder on a piece than that. I was literally, by the time I uploaded it, that it'd been an all-nighter to finish it. I was absolutely exhausted, and literally, I think I was burnt out, quite frankly. I've been working so hard I was burnt out because I haven't done any video since then. Mainly because I haven't got a project that requires it. That was an agony to do, and it was intended to be brutal. It's in monochrome for that reason. And the sounds, though you might think they're harmonic, they're actually horribly brutal sounds I'm using, and quite... And what's interesting is there's quite a lot of harsh sounds in it. And then at the end, the leaves and the wind, that's actually all white noise. But it feels like harmonious white noise because it's the harmony of nature.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering, because this is purely ignorance on my part, is there significance in what sounds like, for my part, somehow African continent speech sort of thing going on there that then develops into what feels like left field leftism drums thing? Is there a story and a significance behind there?
There
Is there a text and a narrative?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, like everything I do, because I think about everything so hard and for so long, I burden the piece with lots of meaning.
That's what in all fairness, that's sort of what I expected and hoped for. You know, we could all just grab a random sample and go, "That sounds cool," but actually.
But no, I have to mangle them and torture them first. I have to say what I want to say. Because I hate my singing voice. These are supposed to sing for me.
So please go on, expand on.
Well, actually, this is this last piece. This isn't a song. This is a scream. This is me yelling at the top of my voice, so the blood spouts out. This isn't song at all. It's supposed to be incoherent rage, basically. And so you start off, and I actually at the beginning of this, I was on Wikipedia downloading everything about the Pleistocene and the KT boundary and all these things. And I wanted to encompass them all. I thought, well, I'm not going to live long enough to do this. So I then condensed it. And you start off and you have the beginning of the earth, which is all life comes from the ocean. So you start off with electricity in the ocean. And then the rain takes us inside the ocean. because that's where life begins. And you then see primal DNA forming, and that leads to a caudal moment. This is the beginning of, hopefully, the harmony, the complex harmony that is Gaia on this planet. Of course, the whole universe is Gaia, but it's Gaia on this, it's a reflection of the universe on this planet, which is this complex interaction of the cycle of creation, destruction, the complex interplay of power. All this is now supposed to be happening on this planet. So you end that microsection with a chord. And then we move through, if you notice, there are actually glitches in the video, which are supposed to represent the dips, the major extinctions. And so you get, I think, 3 of those. Sorry, this is all ridiculously detailed.
No.
You get three of those.
This is what...
is what we're here for. What we're here for.
And then you move into the first human civilization, and that speech is actually the oldest spoken tongue in the world, which is Australian Aboriginal, and that's a fragment of the oldest still spoken tongue on the planet. And then you see that in context as an Aboriginal. And then I think part of that.
Can we ask where you sourced that from?
That was a horribly YouTube, so I've probably breached God knows how many.
No.
You know,
but
regulations.
It's out there. It's YouTube. It's a thing. Yeah,
it's in YouTube land. But I mean, it's just it just spoke of this tiredness but hope, really, which is really, this is the basis of the piece: is tiredness but hope. And then you see us living in harmony with the initial few tribes coming together. And you notice the humans there are in groups, small groups, and they're well-formed humans. And the music is fairly harmonious, tribal, so the timing varies, but it's fairly harmonious. And then there's an interregnum, which is the rise of capitalism and borrowed money. And that's that chime that you hear. And then it all becomes mechanized. And so you have metronomic music, which is brutal. And you see the ball of humanity is huge. And if you look at the individual humans, they are deformed humans. And they're conflicting with each other inside that ball of humanity. And so that piece then moves through the Anthropocene. That is the Anthropocene. So you see what we're doing to the climate and what we're doing to ourselves with having regimented creatures all walking to the same step and dying, and dying conveniently and all the rest of it. So this is the perversion. That last bit is me screaming, saying, do you not see? This is a perversion of everything the universe stands for.
Because... without wishing to interrupt you or indeed Ben, who is no doubt about jumping to...
Ben is leaning forward here. I'm quite worried now.
The whole... You were saying about this sort of being a sort of negative thing. And I got that as being a drop the beat, here comes civilization, what can we do? Thing.
It was, I mean, obviously it's art, so any kind of interpretation
is
totally just as valid. Because once, as you know, Ed, once you release these things,
because I mean, I think that from the time you spent together doing stuff and being on stage and whatnot, I think we're coming from vaguely similar lines.
Yeah.
Which all of a sudden that's a really surprising sort of disjunct thing.
I'm glad I can still surprise you, Ed.
I got that sort of thing where all of a sudden the dump kicked in. And it's like, okay. And I got that as being the sort of trigger happy, okay.
It's supposed to be mechanization. It's kind of...
I got that as it's a bit cheap, but you know what? It's a happy thing.
It is a little bit cheap, actually, but it was the closest I could get.
But actually what you were trying to achieve was exactly that. It is cheap. It is nasty.
Yes, it's meant to be cheap, expedient, and tawdry.
Yeah.
So it's
Whereas I got it as being a bit cheap, but okay, it's a cool thing. We'll all go and buy our copy of the Daily Mail and have done with it.
Yeah, it's kind of throwaway, isn't it? It's throwaway.
Yeah.
It's drum and bass. So, which I love, by the way. But
absolutely, as do we all. You know,
it's brilliant
we've all
stuff.
done our
this
bits.
is my skeletal take on drum and bass, which is let's all get and make some money. And so that's the beginning of get out there and make some money, die for capitalism kind of thing.
Not
which in my view of the beginning of the end.
But not that every drum and bass writer ever made.
No, drum and bass is brilliant, but you know, this is my warped drum and
totally,
bass.
Absolutely.
John,
Ben is about to just go off the deep end.
Oh my God.
Excellent.
It's so ambitious. This is so ambitious. It's so much grander than your description on the YouTube page definitely gives.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
You know?
It's supposed to lure people in the YouTube page and then leave
That
them
is
staggering afterwards.
I mean, I've actually got another monitor over there with the descriptions for each 3 pieces.
Yeah.
Just going, if I just have to recite these, that'll do.
Yes, exactly. No, I mean, the pieces, the stuff on YouTube is fairly dry. But this is the real visceral kind of stuff behind it all, which is literally me screaming, saying, one, how beautiful the organization of the cosmos is, wonder and marvel at it. It is an incredible thing. We are so honored to be part of this, which we are now barely aware of because of our devotion to science. That's shown us how beautiful this is, as if we couldn't appreciate it through our eyes and our ears. And look what we're doing to it. And so the final piece is meant to be brutal. Certainly the last section of it is meant to be utterly brutal.
Which I'm going to say, I find that for me, you leave us on that sort of glimmer of hope when we were left in the forest. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and in the falling leaves, I think they are, aren't they? Yes. And everything that sort of encompasses is like, that's the sort of personal statement, but like, it doesn't feel like personal pieces until it gets to there. And it's sort of like you allowed yourself to say, you know, despite how horrible I see this, how brutal I'm making this, I'm going to give it a bit of hope. Otherwise, you know, I don't know if I can come out of this piece as a creator, right?
Well,
so
it was really hard, but I had to put that in, and it was always going to be in there. And the reason is we're going straight back to the beginning, which is I opened my window and I could see the other side of London in only 3 weeks. If we modify human activity for 3 weeks, and there's now a brilliant David Attenborough documentary based on the science throughout lockdown, and you know, global animal populations, air quality has improved immensely over this last 18 months. And guys, the way forward is there.
So do you think you would need to revisit this subject, or do you feel like you've completed these thoughts now? Because it's, you know, there's, exactly. Like, you know, where would you go if you went back, right? Like it
would be very hard. But this actually is a central theme of my life. The Gaia theme is a central theme of my life. And what these pieces brought back to me is how central that is. You know, it was impossible for me not to say these things. These were pieces I had to make. And when I started, I had to finish. And now I'm just relaxing because I'm pretty much played out. But
no.
I've got other stuff in mind. There's a live piece. As I say, these pieces take literally weeks and months to congeal. So I've got a live piece that I'm working on. I've got an EP, as Ed knows, that I'm working on, a charity EP made during lockdown, which is the first of a few.
Which actually sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Well, no, I've been listening to your masters and trying to sort of give feedback, and
that's very
as and when it comes out, if anybody's got anything to put to that, then please do, because it's a good cause, and it's somebody who's trying really hard to help them. So
I mean, I became aware of two things that I relied on to keep myself sane. I was perilously close to losing it all throughout this 18 months, as I'm sure many of us have been, the ones who have survived. And it was only artists and a park that brought me through this. And so, I just want to contribute in a tiny, tiny way. So all these EPs will be, when I say all, I've got one done pretty much, one on the drawing board and another one potentially ready. So they will all be for charity totally, and all to go to artist charities, because we need these people who scream from the edges and say, you know something, you're doing it wrong. This is an alternative view. And we need these people now more than ever.
So, would you just go back to the pieces? Do they need an audience then? Because if they did, honestly, I'd have to agree with you. Where having access to all three at once in some form would be very informative. So if it needed an audience and you could sort of redisplay it in a different way, do you think would you do that with these?
I would do it as VR, because they should be a triptych.
Yeah.
They should literally be a triptych. They should be projected on walls of a projected room or something. And that room should be floating in space. That's what I see when I see them. And you'll have that colorful one in front of you, which is the most beguiling one. And yet, you can turn to one side and you'll be seeing past it into space and say, "Oh my God, I can see what this is about." And then I would make the one on the right hand wall, Ouroboros. I would make that slightly more opaque, so you couldn't quite see the cosmos through it.
So would that be three things you could almost flip between in real time?
It would be projecting at the same time and looping.
Simultaneous, yeah.
Projecting and looping.
So I mean, in terms of where your gaze is going, would you then have?
You would have sound. You would have sound that if you're looking at
the
it, you
second
would then
one.
hear it.
That's the first
Oh
one.
no, I don't think I wouldn't
one.
do that to anybody. They would have freedom to choose, or you could have background noise beyond the pieces, and that background noise would of course be the sound of the forest. But you could walk. Charles knows this. I've been getting into 3D VR stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
totally.
that's actually I've got my. You can just see it in the corner here. I've got myself a ridiculous PC because the Mac was. This will be the last video piece I make on the Mac because it was literally it was making 10 frames a second while I was scoring this piece. So I was having to see one frame every few minutes.
Yeah.
That was how I was scoring the piece. So it was literally on his last legs. And so I've now got a PC, so I will be hopefully doing stuff in VR. That's going to take a little while because I've got to get to learn Unity and things. So that's the eventual goal, is maybe to rescore this or have it in a universe that is a VR universe.
So what's that in your artistic process beyond the technological one, where if there were no limits, where would you want to go with it?
Oh, it has to be an installation, really, to be honest. And you would actually, in my head, you would have people dancing to it in front of the pieces, so that you get, like Plato's cave, you get the piece, which is reality. Let's say it's reality.
Okay.
And then you get someone responding to that, but you're responding to them, responding to the piece. So you've got two levels of abstraction. Because we're all in Plato's cave.
Well, absolutely, as we are, yes.
And so that's what I would do, because they are abstractions anyway. So I would have two levels of abstraction. And so you can flick from universe to universe, from abstraction to abstraction. And so that would be my absolute goal for those pieces. I don't see I'd want to take it any further than that.
Because, the whole triptych thing always feels slightly, I wouldn't say loaded, but it's very...
It's got
ecclesiastical in a sort of...
It's meant to be. The choice of word is deliberate. They're devotional panels. because I think that there must be an element of the spiritual in what we do if we're ever to regain anything resembling a normal path
And
as
that
an
is
organism
interesting.
involved in Gaia.
That is where things start to become, they're
all intensely spiritual pieces, in fact. Most of my work
okay,
is.
I mean, the obvious question would be, do you nail your faith to any particular flag or thing of that?
Polytheism.
If you don't mind me asking.
I studied shamanism for several years. Polytheism, in that everything is sacred or nothing is sacred.
Okay, so yeah, that's genuinely very interesting, and
yeah, it's I find it fascinating,
and quite frankly, in this arena, a very honest and bold step to put across, and thank you.
Well, I mean, I lived it for many years, so.
Well, no, absolutely. There are many people that would like to cling to the banner who can't for whatever reason. Good on you.
It seems to me to be the only true path, in that if our life is sacred, which is what Christianity maintains, or one life is sacred, then surely all lives are sacred. And of course, for shaman and that particular belief system, a rock is just as sacred as we are. And that makes more sense to me, because they're all parts of creation. You can imagine them all having a complex song. Why is their song any less valuable than mine? And together, we make a house, a temple.
It's definitely comes across that they're spiritual pieces, they're personal pieces. The thing that I've struggled a little bit with the third piece is its linear demand on narrative, where the other two pieces don't.
Yeah.
And I would say that because you structure it as a triptych, and knowing about them, and if you could share this with any of the audience, or you reconfigure the display for an audience, you could still convey the triptych ideas and all the stuff you shared with me. It's very, very dense, and it fits with the piece. But if I, as a curator, just said, I just want this one piece, I just want this one narrative-based piece, I still think it would be okay on its own.
Yes. I mean, they'd all be okay on their own. That's the whole idea. You can always separate the panels of a triptych. That's not an issue, because they're all the same piece. And of course, you can separate the panels, but that would not be the best way to see them. In my view, the vital bit for me is those two, the left hand and the medium piece. So Sign of the Times and Hodiad, which have this almost simplistic worship to them, where you can relax and say, isn't this beautiful? There is that to both of them. I didn't want that for the third piece. The third piece is the jarring note. The third piece is modern humanity, driven humanity, not even humanity really. And that is the bum note. And so that has to be there to set off the other two notes. It's not even a dominant seven. It's like a flatted dominant seventh. It's supposed to cause you physical pain.
Well, because that's the emotional intent behind your message, obviously. Your emotion is, hey, folks, pay attention to this. This is painful, what we're doing.
Yeah,
and that's what you're trying to convey. It's
that contrast that's supposed to cause the pain.
But yet you're left with a bit of hope. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Lick the wounds right at the end,
Well, I mean, what my experience has shown, what the experience of this lockdown has shown us all, is the slap in the face and the pause for breath. There is hope. And incidentally, the shaman have been saying it for years. They have I think they reunite every 5 years to gauge the temperature of the planet and how things are going. And it's always been going downhill until, I think they said 2021, that there would be a turning point. This was years ago when they said this. And who knows? I don't know. As one of my old teachers used to say, it might be a whisper. This might be the time.
Interesting. Yeah. It's almost the kind. It's from my point of view. It's like it's so dense, and the pieces are so good. This hasn't been like the other deep dives we've done, where I feel I have less questions of maybe authenticity or technicality, but it's really like this has felt like more like sitting with you for a seminar about the context of this work. Like I've learned a lot actually, John, and I think that's really important when you share these pieces too. Is like this context, this context that we've had the opportunity has kind of shifted how I view, not from a negative to a positive, just from what this is and what I thought it was to a much bigger and greater piece.
They're kind of because the pieces are born of my convictions, and because I work on them so long, I think that they are me, and so I've wrestled those pieces into simply being me. I've thought about being me for quite a while. And I've made what I think are the best choices that I can make as a sort of hopefully thinking human being. This is my prayer. This is my scream.
Yes.
This is my prayer, so that's all I can do. That's all I can say. And I will do lots more work, but this for me, this is it. This is me.
Awesome.
And that is, if that is as you extol it, that is the output of your soul,
Yeah, which is what art is, obviously.
Which is what we all try and do, and yeah.
It's very accomplished.
Shall we wrap it up? Shall we wrap it up at that point?
Because, it's amazing.
I mean, that is an obvious kind of point to try and stop because, John, do you have anything else you would wish to add that we've missed out? And
no, I think, guys, you've covered it all really well, and thank you for giving me this platform to explain the pieces.
Oh no, it's really genuinely engaging and enjoyable. I mean,
one I've enjoyed talking to you hugely, and I think we've really got to the bottom of what these pieces are about, and it's really been such a joy and delight to actually say, this is actually what they're about.
Yeah,
and obviously it's art and it's out there, and please take them and make of them what you will. Please enjoy them. If they give you a pause and allow you to see a different way, then I am so happy. But that's entirely up to everybody who sees and listens to them.
No, that's brilliant and beautiful. Genuinely, it's very easy to just sit at your kitchen table and say that, in here. But that is wonderful. I mean, Ben, have you got anything you want to add or to ask or to chip in? Or
just to recap as well, like I think it's nice to have such a personal piece of works to look at, John. So, on my behalf, thank you. Thank you for sharing all this stuff today and all this context. I've learned so much about you and these pieces, and they're great pieces. So yeah, absolutely. I think you can enjoy them as a stranger on the street, and I think that you could enjoy them sitting beside you in a cafe as you unload all this, and that's a successful piece to me as a piece of art.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to get back and see you all again live, because although these are the best I can do, I think live performance music is a transient art. It's the art of the second, the moment. As in all life doesn't get frozen. And so whilst these pieces are the best I could do, one thing I found when I was trying to find them for Charles, I hadn't really kept them. I'm pretty brutal. Once I've made a piece, I will pretty much chuck it, because pieces music is transient. It's how we're feeling as a group right now. Yes, music is our response to everything. Music is our response to everything in that moment. That crowd, how we're feeling, the place. That's what music is. And you can't, although there's so much good music out there, and I'm so grateful for it, let's not forget that music is meant to be live. Music is a living thing. And so I can't wait to get out there and do live stuff again.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and that will be astounding. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Ben, who's over there, because that's there and everything's reversed.
Thank you, Ed.
If you're still watching this and enjoying it, we have the next full episode of Oscilloscope coming up on the last Tuesday of the month, which we have Andrea Andrich, Ryan Jordan, Cecilia Sir, and various other people joining us. Yeah, and if you want to join us, tune in for that. We've got coffee.com if you want to chip in a coffee for us to cover the rent of the studio space. And yeah, it's been lovely. And Ben, thank you so much. John, thank you so much. You know,
thank you guys.
Yeah, that 3 amazing pieces, you know, and Ben, it's great to sort of sit and co-host along with you as ever, because
Thanks, Ed.
you know, I mean, I know are you on your 5th day of fasting now?
I am 5 days so far. Yep.
Yeah,
And
there's
you're
5
doing well.
days of fasting, and he's still roughly talking in sentences. You know.
Well, as much as a Canadian ever can, anyway. You know.
Hey,
Well,
thanks a lot, Ed.
no.
Thanks a lot.
Ben is over there. He hasn't eaten
I'm way
for
over
5
here.
days,
It's
and
very
I
impressive.
still seem roughly articulate. You know,
Oh,
yeah.
man, that is impressive.
Therefore,
Well.
you know, everything has its uses. So yeah,
It's been great,
so,
Ed. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh no, it's been genuinely lovely, and thank you, John. You know, it's
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I mean, I've just enjoyed our conversation hugely.
yeah, absolutely, and thank you, Charles, who bipped in the middle. I don't know if he'll make the final cut, but yeah, he
Probably not. All the profanity will be cut out, I'm sure.
well, I suspect he probably will, because it's part of the fun. And
I didn't know you knew those words, Ed, quite frankly. But you know.
oh no.
He's been
There
around.
aren't many
Ed gets
words I
around.
don't know.
He's an artist. He's been to the dark side of life.
Of course, you know, that's part of the fun of this sort of thing. You know, you step on both sides of the road, left-hand path and the right-hand path, and all that. You know, and then you end up with a random itch in between. But you know,
I'm laughing so much my earbuds are falling out. This isn't.
oh dear, yes.
That's a sign.
Anywho, before we all end up on like random, I don't know, occultism with whichever path we're going down. Yeah, thank you so much, and it's been wonderful and lovely. And yeah, John, do you have any links for things that you want people to go and see your work on?
I will. Yeah, I will forward them to Charles, so they'll make it for the final
Cool,
broadcast.
cool. And I suspect now when they see the final cut, they'll be floating down there at the bottom. And
He's a genius,
Hope
that
so.
man.
He is. In fairness, he is.
Put him on the spot now.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben. Thank you so much as ever, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
It's been great, and yeah. Have you got? Has your book, the next chapter, been out yet or not?
Oh, the book, yeah, chapter 2, Rebirth. We got 2 more pages to color, and then it's off to the letterers. So we're looking hopefully at the end of the month or the beginning of next month, and it's a beaut.
Brilliant.
It's very
stuff.
beautiful. So yeah, keep your eyes
Okay, so yeah, we're there. We're
Getting
getting
close.
Well done, guys. Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay, and yeah, there we are. North Star, thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good stuff.
Oscilloscope. We're about on the last Tuesday of every month, and on the 15th for the deep dive stuff, which is this. And yeah, thank you everybody who's been involved in this. It's been really great.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Back to the gin and tonic
thank
for me
you.
now.
And at some point, Charles will pull a cut in this, and
He
we'll
will,
stop
that's
He
true.
will.
having
He will.